The flags are flying at half-mast in this tiny village 40 miles from Valdez. Townsfolk here are mourning what they believe is the death of their environment, maybe the death of their village. Like no other town, Cordova, Alaska, a fishing village, population 2,500, is bearing the brunt of America's worst ever oil spill. The pungent and unmistakable odor of oil permeates the air over these, the once sparkling waters of Alaska's Prince William Sound. In other years, the fishermen of Cordova have plied these waters for the bountiful salmon and herring that are the lifeblood of the local economy. But this year, nobody knows how many fish will survive beneath the oily sheen. Most fear the worst.
Without fishing, Cordova is a ghost town. We're done. There won't be anybody living here if fishing goes to hell. That's the bottom line. That's it.
The spill couldn't have come at a worse time for the fishermen of Cordova. Inside this fish hatchery are some 120 million salmon fry, or baby salmon. Within 10 days, they will need to be released to the Sound, where they will fully develop. Normally, 6.5 million of them would later be caught and sold by local fishermen. This year, though, the oil slick has taken dead aim on the hatchery, and the tiny salmon probably won't make it.
We're fighting to keep them alive right now, and we'll see. Playing it kind of day by day, and see what we can do for them. Want to send them into the best environment possible. This slick, this spill, God only knows at this point.
And then that tanker listed some more, and if anything happens now, that's going to really throw it in. And then we'll really be, that will screw. Don't even want to think about that. But
at the Fishermen's Union Hall, volunteers are in the midst of a desperate effort to try to protect the hatchery from the oil. The only way appears to be to build a series of booms or screens in the water to block the oncoming oil. Exxon, the operator of the maroon ship, says it's unable to help.
Exxon was working and trying, but it was confusion in their network, and things weren't happening.
Hold on a moment. Hey, is Exxon paying the laborers?
No.
See, that's all that...
So the fishermen, running out of time, are conducting their own international search for materials with which to save their fisheries. There is mounting disgust in the community for what's perceived as Exxon's cavalier attitude toward the Alaskan environment.
Well, I think the first thing that the response, as we've heard, was so slow in coming. And then what came, the containment booms, the assistance was certainly not adequate, not even close to being adequate, and never will be.
Rick Rosenthal is a marine biologist who used to live in Cordova. The Exxon company brought him up this week to help study the effects of the spill. But upon arriving here and seeing the severity of the spill and what he called Exxon's slovenly attempts to clean it up, he resigned from the Exxon team.
Well, just look at this. It's really a crime. I mean, you can fly along here and look down, and until you get down in ground level and walk around, you can't appreciate how much this oil is inundating the rocks and the seaweeds and starting to permeate down into the seabed.
Rosenthal says herring, which usually spawn this time of year on beaches like this, probably won't this year because of this heavily oiled rockweed.
Yeah, we just got this one 10 minutes ago.
How is he?
Yeah, he's kind of oiled up. He was pretty sluggish coming up the beach.
And on this day, at least 30 sea otters, mired in the oil, were pulled from the surf by animal rescue teams.
Well, they're coming across a lot of otters that are soiled and matted from the oil, and the sea otter is one animal. Sea otter is one animal, marine mammal, that has to keep its hair clean all the time. Otherwise, its insulation factor goes and it dies of exposure. So this guy's in bad shape. He's matted with oil, and it's pretty doubtful that many of these animals are going to live. They're going to die, and it looks like they're going to die by the hundreds and maybe even more.
For several days, the Coast Guard banned the media from flights like this one to view the oiled beaches. But as reporters figured out ways to elude the restriction, pictures like these began making their way back to Cordova.
Yeah, dead animals, yeah.
And the people of the town found that their entire lives, not just their livelihood, had been changed forever by the unrelenting oil, now covering 600 square miles around them.
When I came here in 1966, it was clean and new, and now it's a filthy mess. Everything is in the process of dying, and it's terribly sad.
This boat behind you here, my youngest son just put $150,000 in it. What's the value of this boat now? Right now, he can't even get what the amount of money that he put into it this winter. So everybody's affected.
I'm sick at heart. Sometimes it's really hard to really sink in. You know, we're so busy trying to get booms to the hatcheries and get things rolling that it's hard to really, you know, step back. And really, as we're talking, this is one of the first times I think about it, really. It's like, what does this really mean? You know, personally for me, God, I'm getting choked up. I can't believe that.
By late week, Exxon had dispatched about a dozen skimming boats to the Sound, though no more than 6 operated at any given time. Cordova's fishermen likened those skimming operations to emptying a bathtub with a Q-tip. It fell to those fishermen to take the most dramatic efforts to save the fishery. 100 men in 40 boats are working grueling, round-the-clock shifts to boom off the sensitive salmon hatchery from the oil.
It's going! Cut loose of the boom! Cut loose! Okay. Never mind.
Butch Johnson is skipper of the Malagai. Tell me this, did you know anything about making a boom or oil containment before this whole thing started?
I had never done it, ever. I never even knew what one looked like. Never seen one before. Seen some oil rags that they threw around before, but I'd never seen a boom.
What are you guys doing?
There was no plan. There was no, I mean, even Exxon, they should have been able to, they've got a lot of management. There should have been at least a management structure set up. There was never one. I never have had a signed contract. I don't know if I'll get paid anything. I still don't. My crew doesn't know if they're going to get paid anything for doing any of this. Nobody was even together enough to help us to get anything to do this with. So we
no help from the oil company?
None whatsoever. They never helped us a bit.
Easy. Pretty heavy. There's a valve in the other end. It's open. Is water coming out? No.
We all feel that the fishery's dead, but we feel it's dead. We keep getting reports of red snappers dying, sea otters dying, birds dying, herring dying, you know, everything dying. I haven't seen it personally because I've been in here on this, but people have been out there and told me that, you know, it's mass devastation out there.
Currently, about a quarter of the Sound looks like it's wrecked. If the wind switches, or if the wind goes in a different direction, we can wreck the rest of it. And I think as a group, we need to exert some pressure.
If the fishery is devastated, Cordova's union leaders say they're ready to take Exxon to court to regain all they've lost. 150 people gathered Thursday night at the high school to discuss legal action.
We're just going to have to make Exxon pay, and they're going to have to fess up. They're not only going to have to fess up to the fishermen and the processors and the tendermen and the crewmen, but they're going to have to fess up to the communities and to the state.
But for others who are still mourning the loss of Prince William Sound, no court victory will replace the water they loved.
How do you sue somebody for wrecking your home? I mean, how do you sue, or where do you begin to sue?
What value do you put on a way of life? You know, which is basically what it is for, you know, us to live here.
I would sue for what they did to my land. I don't know what value to put on it, but I think they owe me. I feel abused. I think that they, they raped the people of this state that used the Prince William Sound. I mean, how do you sue for that stuff? It's a direct violation. It's criminal. I'd almost rather see him being thrown in jail for it.
Alaska Governor Steve Cooper says he'll step forward to ease some of Cordova's pains. Cooper came to town on Saturday to listen firsthand.
What did you hear from the people of Cordova today?
Well, they're angry and frightened, and they've got a right to be. Their future's in jeopardy. They want to know how they're going to survive over the next few years if there's no fishing season in Cordova, and I don't blame them.
Can you help?
Sure I can help, and I intend to.
How?
Well, we're going to set up some kind of mechanism so that the fishermen can get paid for lost revenue as quickly as possible. We don't want them to have to go through the federal court system in a lawsuit against the Exxon Corporation. We want them to get paid quickly and expeditiously.
State of Alaska money?
If we have to advance it, we will, but we'll go after Exxon for the rest of it.
How much?
I can't. That's all I can tell you. We got a meeting here. I don't have any idea how much.
But Cooper and the people of Cordova know they'll have to wait until summer if they want true relief, and that would be in the form of 50 million salmon and 10,000 tons of herring coming home to the waters of Prince William Sound. With the water looking murkier each day, that's unlikely. It could be that the sun has set on the town of Cordova's long history as a rich fishing village.